Yeah, another video. Sorry, keeps happening. So anyway, response video to Anekantavad. So it's basically short video. I don't know if I'll play it or not. I think I can paraphrase it fairly, and but we'll see. Maybe I'll find it necessary to play it for some reason. Sort of a concession, which is nice of him, and I appreciate the response. He does get aggravated, and is not very responsive often. And his style is this, it's a 3-minute video. I appreciate that he listens to my 50-minute video and then posts a 3-minute video. And it's not a direct question. I don't know, he phrases the response as questions. What is religion? Bad science? ? But he's agreeing that it is a kind of bad science, and I'm just saying I appreciate the fact that he responded to this particular video, just because I think my previous video was, one of my 10 best kind of videos. So I think it was a really good explanation of this. Yeah, it was good. It was a good video. I mean, it was well argued, good metaphors, good analogies, good stuff. So I'll have to resort to some metaphors and analogies again, because that is part of trying to make comparisons. And when you get to this rudimentary number, this rudimentary thing of this idea of negative and positive, of repulsion and attraction, the very idea, the very nature of good and bad, it always becomes metaphorical because we feel it. All references to good and bad are references created based on how it affects a sentient organism. The whip and the carrot. These are only meaningful things when the thing itself is going to be put in some sort of positive or negative state. So again, we're stuck with these words. And all the words are essentially metaphors, analogies to the thing we can't explain. So that's sort of his argument here. There's this part of reality that's outside of the scope of explanation. And words are difficult. It's true, and I've argued that much of the limitation and much of the fact that we can't have a rational conversation about these experiences is because the language is so broken. It's so archaic. It's so stuck in the old science. We don't have a new scientific language, and therefore it gets really tricky because it's like the tailbone's connected to the leg bone, kind of, it's all too simplistic. The leg bone, like that tells you what a leg is, it just doesn't work. It's not a scientific language. It's a human language. It's an animal's language, and it's obviously been suited to religious conversation, bad science conversation. So that's another critique I've made, is that you're requiring the science to use a broken language to describe a non-tangible thing, a non-materially touchable. Clearly I can touch my computer, I can touch the CPU, I can touch all its little parts, but that doesn't mean I can touch the software, in the sense where I could feel my way to understanding, it's going to make a graphic now. I can't use my fingers to tell me what's going to show up on the screen. So the material connections are abstractions or disconnections, and so we can only dissect them, put them, we have to use some other means to reconstruct them. We can't just feel it or hear it or see it. Our experiences are like that. They're hidden in the nuance of the wires, the neurons firing, the synapses, the whole bullshit, the chemistry, the blood pumping, all of that crap. It's hidden in the nuance of all that stuff, and you can't just lay your hand on it, like a religious kook, and say, I get you, I see you. Can't do that, realistically. Alright, so to use these language, it just has to be carefully constructed language, is I guess my argument is that. So he kind of turns it around and comes up with a sentence like, maybe science is bad religion, or something like that. a bad science is bad religion or something. Well, anyway, maybe I should play it just to clarify that. But it's more word play, in the sense that if you take science's ambition, its mission statement, and you clarify what that mission statement is, and if I just say the purpose of science is to accurately describe reality, okay, then we know that it can't be a bad religion, because that's not the purpose of religion. So we could agree that when I use the statement that religion is bad science, I'm saying it's a bad attempt. It's a sloppy attempt. It's an ignorant attempt to accurately describe reality. That's not what it's doing. It's doing something else. Okay, it's not trying the limits of its mission statement. Okay, it's more about give me a feeling, give me a solution. It's not about the actual fact of doing this accurate description thing, and that's what science is doing. And so now we're just, in the end, going to get into this argument. I think where the contention is going to lie is he's going to say that there is no way to accurately describe experience. There's no way to accurately understand it. That would be the other part of it, to understand in context, to get a big enough picture. And that, in the end, all we're looking for, all you get out of science, the mission, the underlying mission, the reason why understanding matters, the reason why an accurate description matters, is because of application or action. And the idea is we want to perfect action. If you do something, do it well. Kind of simple overriding rule is that everything we do should be done the best it can be done. Why not? If I'm going to wiggle my finger, I should be wiggling it the best it can be wiggled. Kind of crap. If you're making something, you want it to be the best it can be made. Even if it's a recipe on a cake box, you want to make the best cake you can make out of a cake box. That's what you're trying to do. You're trying to do perfectness. You're trying to do the best you can do. What's the best I can get out of the energy that is this thing? I mean, that's to me the ultimate question. As a thinking human, the best you can do is to understand that you're a thing, and you're trying to get the best out of this thing. And this thing's doing two things. One of them is feeling comfortable, and one of them is affecting things that will feel comfortable or uncomfortable. That doesn't seem out of the scope of being an accurate description of our reality, is it? That we have two producers of value in our existence, two machines that produce something of this carrot nature or this unwhip nature, to make it even more conducive to my negative utilitarianism. You want to unwhip the world. There's whips going off, kapow, 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 and you're just trying to say, how do I unwhip the world? And there's whips inside my brain, so I want my brain to be unwhipped. I want it to be able to rest in bliss, to just go, excellent. Yeah. But I also want, in the rest of the world, the whips. I don't want to make whips to have my bliss. I don't want to hear a crack of a whip every time I get a little bliss. I mean, just logically, scientifically, we can figure out this economics. So that's what it comes down to. There's an economics to it. So it's like an economic theory, which is like a system design theory. There's a system here. There's an input and an output. And you're just trying to maximize the consumption, the negative produced, the emissions from the car, and maximize the output. How many miles you get to the gallon. And we have the same parallel kind of functionality. I think that's a scientific fact. I think that's a decisively, demonstratably accurate description of our reality. As a fundament, as just a as just a foundation of overt, obvious perception. This seems quite honest and fair description of our reality. I feel, they feel. There's two kinds of ways to feel. Not good and good, or not bad and bad. However you want to, like I said, however you want to weight those. It doesn't, like I say, I don't care if you make a world that's all carrots or a world that's all whips. The point is understanding the it's not about whether it's getting pushed or pulled. It's about the movement. It's about the difference between the two places it could be, left or right, good, bad, attraction, repulsion. So I think it's a scientific subject, experience. I think it's demonstrated. It's decisively demonstratable through logical observation. Just taking the pieces and putting them together, the simple pieces, to understand basic concepts like I'm not magical. My consciousness isn't extremely special. It's nuanced. It's different. Every eddy in a stream is different. Okay, but they're not different in a significant way. They're different in insignificant ways. Just as snowflakes, or you can use a million examples. The significant differences don't exist, yet there is uniqueness. And I think that's a fair scientific observation of reality. That there might be 20,000 chimpanzees. They're all different, but they're all chimpanzees. We know what a chimpanzee is. We know what a basic human is in terms of a manufacturer of experience. So we have the huge scientific advantage in this description of reality of having experience. We actually have it. It's right here. I'm doing it. So I can observe it. I can just look at it and have it and say, and I can make descriptions of it. I can describe what it is. I can do that. And I certainly can describe the extremes of it, which are the highly enjoyable versus the highly unpleasant. Those I certainly can make distinctions between. I can certainly qualify through testimony of this distance between these things, and the nature of them having this value component. It's certainly something quite obvious, and I don't think a rational counter theory can be proposed that would have some logic to demonstrate how the good is really bad and the bad is really good, or something like that. I mean, the experiences in and of themselves. So I think it is all scientifically describable, but we have to do it with this language, and the minimum, I guess, what I'm recognizing is that yes, it has to be very carefully stated, because every word people put emphasis on, and you have to be so cautious in how you describe what you're doing, even in writing a sentence or composing a statement. You have to dissect it. Like I said, we say the word science. For me, science is accurate description. For somebody else, science is usefulness, functionality. It has some other describer than this more purely dissected one of accurate description. Discovery is a description. And by my definitions, there's equal signs on there. When you discover, you describe, you understand. These are all connected words, and and then it's just getting to the point of what's the the value of it. In and of itself, value doesn't really exist, but in a practical way, there's no other way it can be valuable than it's always going to affect perception of application. How it's applied, how is the information applied, and clearly, I would say that's also part of the science. is recognizing the context of the application. If the only thing in the universe is you, then you can play the chess without worrying about the pawns and the bishops and the kings and everything, because it's just you that matters. But if you understand the context that, no, the game you're playing is a bigger game, well, then you have to account for the change in that system. And science can do that. I think science can understand. It can let you know that you're not just the only piece on the board. It can expand your understanding of the system in terms of your attempt, the usefulness. Usefulness isn't, does it make you happy? I think scientifically you can argue that that's not a rich question. That's one of those religious questions. It's almost preposterously ignorant to think that that's a meaningful question, because it has to be stated in the context of what will be the implications of your happiness. How much will it cost in terms of the welfare of the others that you're living with, and the future that will live on the ground you've soiled and stepped on. Every time we dent the world, we might be creating an obstacle in the future. Some future president might trip on a dent I put in the planet and die, and he would have saved the world. Blah 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 blah. The fact that we are, in a game that's in preposterously complex, means that that's certainly a limitation on our science. We can't accurately describe every event and every probability and every possibility and every inevitability. That we can't do with science. We can't do it because we don't have the instruments to do it. We don't have the calculator that can hold the big enough numbers and do all the decimal points, because the interactions are so complex. But we certainly can do the obvious, and we can certainly recognize probabilities, and we can recognize some equations are quite obvious. Some cost to benefit analysis is not complex. It is overt and obvious that there's low probability of any success, preposterously low. I could wish the moon to crash into the earth. There's a low probability of any success in this wishing function. It's never been demonstrated to have any power whatsoever. So it wouldn't be good to count on it. That can be a scientific statement. Low probability of success. And religion has a low probability of creating anything but maybe delusionally happy people, but they won't be constructively interacting in the world because they don't understand the world they're interacting with. I suppose it could be argued that science can give us a reliable, like GPS kind of map of the world. Science can spell a lot out for us, so we know where all the turns are. So even a blind man could navigate the world. But religion puts roads where they don't exist. Religion puts all kinds of stuff where it doesn't exist. It describes fantasies, not realities. And those fantasies will drive people off cliffs in terms of their functionality, in terms of what they do to the game. Because their strategy, their action won't be consistent with the map of the game. Because their description of the game is inaccurate. That's probably enough context. That's probably enough add-on. Underlying all this, again, is I can't do much if you have a intuition or a want for there to be a more complex game that we're playing than just some trading off of welfare states between pawns. This is just a bunch of pawns on the board, and they're told, it's just said, go! And they just fight with each other to gain comfort, because you sort of have to build it out of somebody else's discomfort in most cases. it's really hard to draw a picture of pawns just floating around, getting along, no problem. No, because they have to eat, and they have to shit. And they have to eat, and they have to shit. And then if they have aggrandized perceptions of their own value, right, then they have to have proper fuckables, and they have to have proper, mansionables and ego-grandizables. They have to be able to climb up on top of their mansion and look out at the world and be overviewed to it, and because they have a feeling, and it's a synthetic feeling. It's just another one of these things. The truth is, I could have said religion is just mental masturbation. It's just yes, it's a shortcut to gratification. But again, gratification in the context of I'm feeling strong, I'm feeling comfortable, doesn't mean much when you're in this sea of interactables that are going to pay a price for your comfort. So it doesn't mean anything. It's your comfort is diminished, destroyed, obliterated, the value of it, by the discomfort your inefficiency is creating. But we're always going to argue about the value of this experience thing, because of a more fundamental disagreement that may not exist on the level of pure fantasies regarding some bigger purpose of the universe, but it might just come down to this idea that maybe you are seeing it all as carrots, and that lacking carrot is bad and having carrot is good. And I'm going to argue that no, the real mechanism, the real generator of the value is this whip thing. And so there is no way to have too little whip. It's always bad. So you're always going to see it as good because it's all just how much carrot. And I'm going to always argue, no, it's just degrees of bad. If I make you immune to disease, you're going to be happy. If I make you immune to all the negatives, loneliness, sadness, disaffectiveness, impotency, whatever, all the negatives. The negatives are the things that make us unhappy, not the positives. It's the absence of the negatives. Your only recourse, once you've eliminated all your problems, is to go. But anyway, that's probably what we're going to get stuck on. But I guess for the purpose of this video, I think it's just perfectly rational to recognize religion for what it is, which is honest attempts, but bad attempts at describing reality. And that the whole notion of creating outside of ourselves, over there, theories of our existence was just a big, stupid mistake. We're not puppets on the string of some master. That's some better game being played somewhere else, and we're the pieces. No, the game is below us. It's a DNA molecules game. The strings are coming from the ground, not from the top. It's the game itself that farted us into existence. Not some player of the game. And it was that fundamental miscalculation. They got that fundamental truth wrong. It's the hell that came first, not the heavens. Yeah, something like that. So anyway, thanks for the response. And I hope this helped in some way.